Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the High Ticket Coaching and Consultant Strategy and Growth Show. Now, if you listen to this interview anywhere else but within our private Facebook community called High Ticket Client Attraction Insider Circle, then definitely come check us out. We'd definitely love to have you. That group was put together specifically for coaches, consultants, and service providers who are serious about getting up to that 6 and that 7-figure level. So if that's you, definitely come check us out. And today, I want to introduce you to one of the members of our community, Amanda. Welcome, Amanda.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Awesome. So this is our second go at it, right? We tried doing it a couple of days ago. It did not work, but we had to reschedule, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stuff happens. Technical glitches happen.
Yep. So, Amanda, tell the community what is that you do?
Yes. So I work as an independent consultant. Sometimes I do partner with others. I work one-on-one for the most part with larger corporations, ones that are making, say, over $5 million a year. Sometimes if they're pre-revenue, startups that are fully funded. And I am also starting to work on rolling out my own programs and courses to leverage that one-to-many for the community that can't afford such high-end one-on-one work.
Okay, good. Now, what got you into this type of work?
Uh, Actually, it was when I accidentally started my first business. Over a decade ago now, I started a virtual assistant company called My Virtual Little Helper. It's a really funny story. But basically, I didn't intend to start a business. It started turning into a business. So then I decided to treat it like a business. And in owning a virtual assistant company, you kind of get like a front row seat to all kinds of businesses of all sizes, right? Because you're working for business owners. So you're seeing everything that's happening on the back end. And I basically just got a crash course in it and just kept sticking to it and pivoting and changing my approach until I got to where I am now.
hmm Okay, so you
Yeah.
said that when you started your first business, you accidentally started that business. How do you accidentally start a business? How did that come about?
Yeah. So when I started my first business, it was when there was the economic crash like ages ago now.
hmm
Not the current one. uh, Even though, I don't know, the market's weird. I won't touch that conversation right now. So I had gotten laid off from my IT job and I couldn't find work. So I started creating my own work by doing random IT gigs, repairing computers, doing like one-time gigs at corporations, things like that. And I had coined the business as My Virtual Little Helper. And I had put a magnet on my car because back in the day, I thought that was marketing. And if I was like fancy enough to afford a magnet I could put on my car, that would attract high ticket clients or something. I don't know what I was thinking, but that was what I thought. And I was waiting outside of the school. Every year, like once or twice a year, the schools do like a parent teacher conference, right? And so there was a whole bunch of other parents there. I was waiting outside of the school and I got a call from a woman who saw the magnet asking me for work and was like, oh, I do virtual assistant work and this, and that. And like, you can just hire me and I'll help you. I can grow your business. I can do this, and that. And I was like, nah, thank you. I'm broke and I can't right now. And I was that night having like no money, lots of time on my hands, no job. Kids were asleep. Started like Googling the virtual assistant thing, seeing what it was, found job boards, found things like that. And I realized that like I could help this person find work like a temp agency and make a few bucks, right? So I called her back and I was like, look, I can just do this and I'll take an overhead like a temp agency does. Let's just do that for now and see where it goes. And I got clients. I kind of scaled my business to like 3 or 4 virtual assistants within like those first 6 months. But I was really, frankly, only doing it to make a buck until I got to my next job. So it was like, systems wise, it was a mess. Structurally, it was a mess. Financially, it was a mess. I wasn't charging enough money. Like I had all those classic issues, but I wasn't solving them because my goal was to find my next job. Until one day, and I can't even tell you what made it click. I just finally realized that this is actually making money. So why don't I just actually keep doing this instead?
hmm Okay. So when you started, you said the goal was just generate enough income just to say, hold you up until you found like your next job. You said that's sort of like a 9 to 5 type of job.
Yeah, I didn't intend to like I didn't start my business with the goal of starting a business and quitting my job. I was
hmm
unemployed and trying to make money
hmm
until I found a job that would give me stability,
hmm
as I thought.
Yeah. So after that happened, what was the next stage for you? So you saw, okay, I could actually do this. What'd you do then?
Well, I doubled down for a couple years on that company, made a lot of money, eventually sold a portion of the clients and kind of like end capped and moved on because I realized after I was kind of like chin deep in that business that it
Hmm.
wasn't the actual business I wanted to run. It was just the business I found myself in circumstantially. Uh, but I was very fortunate that I was already working with some premium clients that I was working with one on one, like consultant wise, because they wanted to work with me directly instead of like team members and stuff like that. So I just kind of rolled that over into what I'm doing now. And that was probably about 4, 5 years ago
Hmm.
now, I would say. Um, yeah, about 4 or 5 years ago. And I've been just kind of focusing on that as the core instead because it just brings in more sanity and it also just leans more into like the life that I actually wanted to live. But
Hmm.
I couldn't have done it if I didn't have all the experiences I did with a very different business first.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting how with all the skills we learn in life, it's always based on there's something in our past that we did that the skills we developed there, we always take it forwards and help us move on to that next chapter, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like fun to reflect on it. It's also insightful to reflect on it because I think that I always had authority issues. I'm a very strong-willed person who likes to do things like the right way, who doesn't like corporate red tape and all of that, which funny, I work mostly in operations and systemizing and improving businesses now, but you could do that without so much red tape. And I always had tendencies where I was doing things like building websites on the side for a couple of extra bucks here or there, but I never psychologically like saw those as like say side hustles or businesses or actual like avenues to go down. They were just things that like I did
Mhm.
when they made sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you said the operation side of things as far as the systemizing. So what aspects, when you look at a business, what processes do you believe needs to be systemized?
I mean, everything can be a system. Everything can have automation. um there's this misconception that like automating or building systems or coming up with standard like procedures and ways that things should be done dehumanizes and controls and micromanages, which it absolutely can depending on how it's done, right? But it's really just meant to bring in tools and structures and systems to actually enable the people in your company, not just to make the business more effective. Like everything any business should ever do, whether you're switching email marketing providers, adding in new automation tools, bringing in an operations consultant like myself to like systemize and make things better, it has to be actually focused on like the people, right? And so within that, every business is going to be very unique to what those people need. Both your customers and the team you should be focusing on building because it's about the team, not you.
Hmm. Yeah. Now with the operations side, when you do step into a business to kind of help them on their journey, do you have how are you looking at? Are you looking at a specific section of the business, or are you looking at the thing as a whole?
Well, you always have to have a holistic approach, right? Because one thing is going to affect all things. So it always starts with looking at data, humanizing the data, and letting the data tell the story that it has to communicate, right? If you're looking at your numbers, let's say we're looking at how you can improve the effectiveness of your sales team or your marketing so you can get more customers, right? And you find out your employees are wasting half of the day most of the time. And maybe it's because in your mind you think they're being lazy or something like that. You really need to look at the data and see what that story is telling you. Yes, employees are being ineffective, but are they being ineffective because you're putting them into too many meetings? Are they being ineffective because you're using tools that are too complex for the job and just because they're a big business tool rather than one that's appropriate for your business? Are they being ineffective because you're forcing them to work on aspects in that marketing or that sales conversation that's not actually their personal skill set just because another company is focusing on that area, right? So every company is different. Every company has their different hurdles. It's first looking at that data in that big holistic approach, seeing what the business goals and the business objectives are, and seeing where in that data the weak point is, and then figuring out why that's the weak point. Not just saying, oh, that number's bad, so the employees are doing bad, or that number's bad, so we shouldn't market on social media anymore. It's never going to be about that. It's taking that first big holistic approach, finding where things are weak, and then asking why over and over and over and over again until you get to the core, and not blaming people, not blaming software, being open-minded and listening to the data as a source rather than your feelings.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about so how does it look with working with your clients? Is it something you go to meet them in person? Do you do it virtually? How does that typically look for you?
Well, right now everybody's doing it virtually. Before, I had a good mix of the two. I've worked with clients I live in greater Los Angeles area, and I've had clients, most of my clients are all on the East Coast, and I've even had a few in Europe, in South America, and in Canada. I've worked with a couple incubators up in Canada. So it's always just a mix. I would say I've always had like about a 50-50 split with virtual versus in person, even before everything really started to make a change. Um, and it's never really been a hurdle for clients, like, ever.
Hmm. Yeah. Now, what about clients wise? Do they run any type of specific types of businesses, or is it income level? What type of clients do they typically look for?
I have worked with a wide range, but I typically keep to the niche of things that either involve the online world or technology. So a couple examples would be like fitness-based companies that are selling products and information online, or like a men's care company that's doing like beard oils and beer butters and things like that. But then on the other side, there's also like the information providers who are speaking, which has an in-person component. But I would focus on like the online component, improving digital team collaboration, things like that. And
Mhm.
typically businesses that have smaller team structures, when I say smaller, I mean like 1,000 or less. I mean, I've seen companies that make 7 figures that only have 5 team members, and I've seen companies that make like 250,000 that have 100 team members. So it just varies, but it's always typically a digital or online component and involves digital collaboration and or tools in some way, shape, or form.
Mhm. So when it comes to the online, the digital side of stuff, you help with the actual hiring of individuals and the recommendation of tools they can use as well too.
Yeah, and then implementing those tools. When it comes to operational improvement,
Hmm.
a lot of it is just helping business owners or CEOs, because the business owner doesn't always need to be the CEO, right?
Hmm.
Or CEOs find, from an outside perspective, discover what can be improved, find what could be improved to get to their bigger goals, and then kind of field out all of the solutions that are available, and then aid in actually rolling out those solutions.
Hmm. Okay, that sounds pretty interesting as well too, because I know there's a lot of individuals. Once you do get into like the thick of things and building the businesses, with most entrepreneurs, they just build, 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 but they never have any time to go back and look at the thing as a whole and see where they need to be, what needs to be optimized, and all those different things, right?
Well, yeah, and let's be frank, that ends up killing a lot of businesses. It's not always better to have more, right?
Hmm.
There's a reason why, if we look at like the bigger business sense, even before times get tough, there's a reason why we see these big companies doing mass layoffs, because they'll build and then they scale down to be able to maintain and to systemize. And it sucks to say potentially have to lay people off. And I've been fortunate enough that I haven't really been part of any mass layoffs in my career, but I'm fully aware of the fact that sometimes that's the name of the game. And as a business owner, you got to make those tough calls, right?
Hmm.
But you got to build, and then you got to look at how you can make what you're building better, either better to serve your team or better to serve your customers, never better to serve yourself. Like, you can't focus on that. It has to be purely about what's going to support the team and what's going to support the customers, which will then support the business's bottom line at the end of the
Hmm.
day.
Yeah, love it. So, what would you say is one skill that you've kind of practiced that you would say has been responsible for your level of success today?
Quality of sleep. Massive thing. I know we had this conversation before. Your mental state is going to contribute to your ability to make decisions and help you fight against decision fatigue, which decision fatigue is going to come. It's going to happen. That's why you need to have team members. That's why you need to have data to rely on to tell you stories. That's why you need to have systems in place so that you don't have to always think so hard and be creative and come up with new ideas every single day, all day long. You have to enable your brain to make better, smarter decisions when appropriate. And the biggest aspect for that was really hard for me for a long time was sleep, because I was working all the time. Before I was with my current partner, I was a single mom while growing and scaling my first business. And they were going to school, luckily, so that helped. But it was taking care of the kids, taking care of the home, taking care of pets, growing my business, helping employees with their struggles, all of that. And one of the reasons I built a business that I didn't love and that I didn't want to have was because I wasn't creating an environment where I could actually think clearly and make better decisions. So I was making money, but I was miserable. And it wasn't until I started caring about that more holistic approach of myself, of sleeping, mostly sleeping was the big one, eating right, doing all those things, did I actually start to make better strategic decisions that required less work, that just made sense, and things just started like clicking from there.
Yeah, yeah. Are you a pretty structured person, would you say?
Yes and no. I have created a lot of structure because I am naturally very forgetful. Like crazy forgetful. So in creating structure by doing things like maintaining a strong schedule and having a particular way that I do every morning and helping myself wind down at night and things like that, I enable myself to like have a little bit more freedom, which is one of those things that a lot of people think like systems, processes, procedures, operations, that like it's all about micromanaging and control, when it's not. It's about ensuring you can get A, B, and C done so that when you're done, you can just do nothing or do whatever you want and then have your freedom at the end of
Hmm.
it.
Okay, so
So
it's not to say, hey, let's just go do just to do, just to do, just to be busy. It's more based on setting priorities, and based on the priorities, putting the effort need to do that and not get caught up into just working just to work.
yeah, not working just to work, not having structure just to have structure, because I'm like one of the most forgetful people in the world. I'll tell you that right now. But it's really easy to appear structured and to have yourself together when you keep things written down, when you rely on a calendar, when you have sticky notes or chore charts written around the house so the people around you can keep you accountable. Like, you don't have to be personally structured if you use tools. You let the tools do it for you.
Right, Brian. Awesome,
Yeah.
love it. Now, what about because I know there's type of argument going around just the online space as far as what does it take to be success, right? You should, most people say success is something you have to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and do this specific thing. And everyone is trying to live into that type of model, thinking that, well, if I don't wake up early, if I sleep in all these different things, I can't be
Yeah.
successful in those different types of things. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I remember we had talked about that in the previous recording. Like, I tried to live that life for a really long time. I'm a night owl. Like, that is a little bit of my life. And I don't mean like I'm going to bed at 8 or 9 a.m. in the morning, but I am a night owl. That's just who I am. And when I was finding myself really unhappy with my first business, I kept trying to do the things that I am told are needed to be successful. And I thought that if I could figure that out, I could be happier in the business that I have and it would be fine because I'm making money. So I need to figure out how I can force myself to be happier, right? So I need to work out and have the perfect
First step would
body.
be
I need to eat
happier.
salads every day. Huh?
I said how to force yourself to be happier, right?
But yeah, I did. And it drove me into the ground even more. And it wasn't until, what was the book? I think I have it over here. What was it called? I'll have to find it. It's like The Power of Now, or no.
Mm. Is it like
The
by
Power of,
Eckhart
here it
Tolle
is.
or something?
The Power of When.
Oh, the power of when. Okay.
This book is all about, and it's not full proper science, but it was solid enough to give me a structure to figure out a little bit more of what I needed. And
Mm.
it's all about how who you are as an individual is different for everybody. We all require certain different amounts of sleep. We all can optimize when certain experiences and things are better for us. And it was in reading this book that I realized I didn't have to get up at 4 or 5 a.m. because I fucking hate it. And I take like an hour to wake up in the morning. I really do. And it's okay that I need to do that. It's okay that I'm not going to get up and go and jog a 5K first thing in the morning and then slam down a green smoothie and then get to work first thing. It's okay to do that, and that I can strategically plan my days around when I actually am more productive, around when I am going to get more focus, and when I naturally want to do the work, rather than forcing myself to do it always on somebody else's schedule or when the rest of the world is running, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was huge, and that was related to the sleep aspect too. Is it's like I didn't need to fit this stereotype of what a successful business owner is. I can structure it however I want. And if I wanted to wake up at noon and go to bed at like 1 to 2 a.m. every night, which that's not necessarily my schedule on the regular, but if I wanted to do that, I
Mm-hmm.
can do that, because there's
Yeah.
still 5-6 hours of times that I can have meetings and do things that are a regular business schedule, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the biggest the biggest thing from entrepreneurship is realizing that you create all the rules and you could set up whatever way you want. There's no right or wrong way. It's like whatever way you want. But the biggest thing is as long as you're like consistent with it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Consistency, that goes back to like, I'm not naturally structured, but I've created structure because in that I found more freedom.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to stress out about getting up at 5 a.m. to go work out, because I know I'll work out at 5 p.m. when I feel like it and after I've done all the things that I want to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Powerful stuff, powerful stuff. So in essence, what's the why behind what you do? What is your why?
There's a couple. The big, like personal, individual why is freedom. And I couldn't have identified that earlier, to be honest. And it's easy to say freedom, but I mean like true freedom in the sense where work is a choice. I get to pick the contracts I want to work on. My
Mm-hmm.
money can be leveraged into multiple things like properties and the like. And being in the position to where I could just decide to not work for 2 or 3 years is really important to me now. The flip side of that, though, is challenge. I like challenge that supports people. Yes, I focus on data and operations and technology, but it touches people at the end of the day. And it's something that people have a lot of trouble connecting with how it does that. And I can kind of become like a communicator of sorts to kind of marry the two together and humanize it. And that type of problem solving, that type of challenge is very stimulating and very exciting. And being able to decide where I can get like that challenge from, that's really where like the happiness of everything comes into, like
Mm-hmm.
genuinely.
Yeah, cool stuff. I know what you said, what you mentioned earlier here, which is freedom, right? So most individuals, when they get online, they're like, I'm gonna leave my job. I'm gonna do something to go create this business that's gonna give me all of this freedom, and then they get into building it and they get going, and all of a sudden it's like they now realize that now they've just gotten themselves a job, but the job
Mm-hmm.
is they're working like 80 hours per week, and the boss is like this really demanding person, which lets them get very little sleep and all these different things, and that boss is them, right? And now they're
Yep.
like, well, I can't give up, I can't stop, I can't slow down, so because it won't work. Versus not realizing that, well, the real reason why you got into this in the first place is for the freedom, right? And so many people just forget that, right?
Well, that was exactly the trap I got sucked into with my first business, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was 100% what happened. I was working a lot. I was managing this massive team. There was stuff happening internationally. It sounded really exciting and cool and fun, and we got to work on a lot of really cool projects, but there was no freedom. I was constantly working. I was constantly tired. Like, even if I was making the money, I didn't have an ability to spend that money. And I think a big part of that came down to my business was never bigger than focusing on solving small problems.
Mm-hmm.
And that small problem was for me to make money and to give people somebody to go through their inbox, right? We never went any bigger than that. So we didn't really have enough value to make the business scalable. It was just money for money's sake. It was just a business for business sake. And that was the big missing component that I didn't really get. And I don't think I even really fully understood it until I started doing more of what I wanted. I think I knew it, but I don't think it clicked until I was like a little bit more into it, like internally.
Yeah, awesome, love it. So Amanda, if someone wanted to reach out, what's the best way for them to be able to connect?
They can hit me up on any social media channels at Amanda R. That's my middle name, Renee. Mock, like mockingbird, MOCK. So on any channel, I'm Amanda R. Mock. Just check me out there. You can also go to amandamock.com and you could join the free program, Growth Academy, there if you felt like it. And send me a quick message to say hi there too.
Awesome, love it, love it. And all the links Amanda just mentioned here, guys, if you're watching this on the live or the replay, the links will be either above or below the video, so you could click and get connected right to her. Well, I think we topped it. I think we topped it. I think this time, Amanda, the second go around, we nailed it.
Yeah, sweet.
Love it, love it. Well, hey, thanks again for showing up here today. Do you have any final thoughts before we end?
Final thoughts. I mean, just take the time to review everything I do operationally, but everything that's got me to where I am right now is making time, sometimes every single day, to think about how your day was, why it was that day, or why the day turned out the way that it did, and just reflect on everything.
Awesome. Love that. Love that.
Yeah.
Well, hey, thanks for sharing the massive stuff of value you shared here today. Really appreciate it. And we'll talk soon. Okay.
Yeah, sounds good.
Enjoy.